The sky of X'ylos was always red. Thick clouds moved like boiling smoke, and the ground was cracked as if fire had burned it long ago. No man had walked here for more than 100 years. The alien women ruled alone, and they had forgotten what. It felt like to hear a male voice. For them, men were myths, ghosts of the past, whispered about only in forbidden stories. But that night, everything changed. A roar cut across the clouds. A burning ship fell from the sky, its metal skin glowing hot, its engines screaming. The alien women in the valley looked up in shock. Fire trailed across the heavens until the ship slammed into the ground with a quake that shook the red soil. Dust and smoke rose high. Silence followed. The tribe gathered, their glowing yellow eyes fixed on the crash site. One of them whispered, "It is a sign." Another hissed, "It is forbiddance." But the youngest gasped, pointing toward the fire, "Someone is alive." From the wreckage, a figure stumbled out. He was tall, covered in ash, his uniform torn. His skin was pale compared to their bronze bodies, his hair dark with soot. His breathing was heavy, but he was alive. A man. The women froze. For 105 years, no male had set foot on their world. Yet here he was, coughing, leaning on a broken metal beam, looking around with wide, confused eyes. The elder woman, marked with tribal scars, stepped forward first. Her voice was sharp, but trembling. "It cannot be real. It must be a trick." But it was real. The man collapsed to his knees, struggling to speak. His voice was hoarse, but even that sound made the women shiver. They had not heard such a tone for generations. Some of them pressed their hands against their chests, as if their hearts could not control the wild beating. Others narrowed their eyes, already filled with hunger, not for food, but for something else. The warrior of the tribe, tall and strong with armor made of bone, stepped forward. She gripped her spear and said, "He belongs to me, by right of strength." "No," another woman shouted, her eyes fierce. "He is not yours. He is a gift to all of us." The tension rose. More and more women gathered, circling the man like hunters around prey. Their steps were slow, careful, yet desperate. For them, this was not just a man, it was hope, power, and forbiddance desire. The human looked around, his heart racing. He saw sharp spears, glowing tattoos, and eyes that burned with strange fire. He did not understand their language, but their hunger was clear. He stumbled backward, falling against the wreck of his ship. "Please," he whispered, "stay back." They did not understand his words, but they understood his fear. And that fear made them step closer. The elder raised her hand. "Stop," her voice shook the air. "Do not touch him yet." The women froze. Silence spread. Only the crackle of fire and the man's ragged breathing could be heard. The elder's eyes were deep, full of memory. "Do you not remember why men were forbidden? Do you not remember the wars, the burning cities, the betrayals?" Some of the women lowered their heads, but others smiled wickedly. "That was long ago," said the warrior. "This one is different. This one is ours." The man struggled to his feet, clutching his side. His body was weak, but his eyes were alive. He stared at them, confused, frightened, but defiant. He could feel it in their stares. He was not a person to them. He was a prize, a treasure, a weapon. The youngest woman, her voice trembling with both fear and curiosity, stepped forward. She reached out her hand. "What is your name?" The man opened his mouth, but before he could answer, the warrior struck the ground with her spear. "Enough, he is mine. I will take him." "No," another shouted. "He must be judged." "No," cried another. "He must belong to me." The circle broke into chaos. Shouts, growls, threats filled the night. Women clashed with words, their hands gripping weapons, ready to fight. And the man, he stood in the middle, trapped, his heart pounding. He had survived the crash, but now he was caught in a storm more dangerous than fire. The elder raised her hand once more, but this time her voice was low, heavy with fear. If we fight now, we will lose everything. He is not just a man. He is the end of our peace, and maybe the end of us all. The women grew silent again, but their eyes never left him. Desire and danger burned together in that circle. The man felt their stares pierce his soul. He understood only one thing: whatever happened next, he was not safe. And then, the warrior took one step closer, her spear glinting in the firelight. "Then let us see," she whispered, her voice like steel. "Who among us is strong enough to claim him?" The circle tightened. The fire roared higher, and the human realized his real battle was only beginning. Word count: approximately 805 *. The night after the crash was restless. The fire still burned where the human ship had torn the valley open. Smoke curled into the red sky, and the smell of hot metal mixed with the sharp scent of alien soil. Around the wreckage, the women of X'ylos argued in low, dangerous voices. Their yellow eyes glowed in the dark, fixed on the lone survivor. The human sat near the broken hull, his arms wrapped around his knees. His body shook, not from the cold, but from the eyes watching him. He could not understand their words, but he understood their silence, the kind of silence before a storm. Suddenly, the silence broke. The warrior woman, tall as a tower, armored in bone and leather, slammed her spear into the ground. Sparks flew from the cracked earth. "He is mine," she declared in her harsh voice. "By the law of strength, I claim him." The circle shifted. Gasps and snarls rose from the women. The warrior stepped closer, her steps heavy, her muscles shining in the firelight. Her presence was like a predator ready to strike. She reached out a hand toward the man's shoulder, but before she could touch him, another voice cut the air. "No!" It was a hunter woman, smaller but fast, her hair braided with silver bones. She held twin blades, sharp as glass. Her eyes burned with wild hunger. "You cannot claim him alone. He belongs to the tribe. We share him, or we fight for him." The warrior's hand stopped in midair. Her jaw tightened. Slowly, she turned her head toward the hunter. The two women locked eyes, fire against ice. The tribe froze, breathless, waiting for the first strike. The human's chest rose and fell quickly. His mind raced. He didn't understand their language, but he knew enough. He was the prize in this deadly game. He tried to stand, but his leg was weak, injured from the crash. He stumbled, and the warrior caught his arm not gently, but with a grip of iron. The hunter stepped forward, her blades ready. "Release him, or I cut you down." The warrior smiled, but it was not kind. "Try." In the blink of an eye, the two women clashed. Spears and blades rang out, sparks flying as steel struck bone. The circle of women erupted in shouts. Some cheered for the warrior, others for the hunter. The human was shoved aside, falling against the ship as the ground shook beneath their duel. The warrior swung her spear like thunder, each strike heavy enough to break stone. The hunter darted around her, fast as lightning, cutting at her armor, drawing lines of blood. Dust rose. Firelight flashed across their bodies. The tribe screamed and howled, their voices echoing in the valley. The human pressed against the wreck, his heart hammering. Every strike, every scream, reminded him that this was no simple fight. This was survival. Not just theirs, but his. If one won, would he be safe? Or would she use him as a weapon? The elder of the tribe watched in silence, her face carved in shadow. Her voice finally broke through the chaos. "Fools, do you forget the law? No man may walk among us." But the women ignored her. The duel was too fierce, too deep. The law of strength was older than the law of peace. The hunter leapt high, her blades crossing like an X, aiming for the warrior's throat. But the warrior roared, swinging her spear upward. The two collided with a crack so loud it silenced the valley. Both women crashed to the ground, rolling in dust, their weapons locked, and in that silence, the human did something unexpected. He shouted, "Stop!" His voice was rough, broken, but powerful. The sound froze the women mid-strike, their heads turned, their eyes wide. No one had heard a man's command in more than a century. The air seemed to tremble with the echo of his word. The warrior blinked. The hunter's blades trembled in her hands. Even the elder's eyes widened at the sound. The man stood weakly, his body shaking, but his eyes sharp. He raised his hands, not in surrender, but in defiance. "I am not yours. I belong to no one." They could not understand his words, but they felt them. His voice carried strength, the kind of strength they had lost long ago. The warrior slowly rose to her feet, her chest heaving. For the first time, her eyes softened not with kindness, but with doubt. The hunter lowered her blades, confusion flickering across her face. The circle of women whispered among themselves, their voices low, uncertain. Desire still burned in their eyes, but something else now mixed with it. Fear. The elder finally stepped forward, her staff striking the ground. "Enough!" Her voice shook the valley. "If he has returned, then the old balance is broken. He is not a prize. He is a danger." The warrior growled. The hunter spat in the dust. But neither struck again. The human lowered his hands, his chest heavy with breath. He had stopped the fight, but he knew it was not over. The looks on their faces told him one thing. They would not let him go. And somewhere deep in the crowd, a pair of soft eyes watched him differently, not with hunger, not with fear, but with something he could not yet name, something that might change everything. The duel was over, but the night had not grown calmer. The women returned to their camp, still burning with arguments, still whispering about the man. Some looked at him as if he were a blessing, others as if he were a curse. But all of them wanted him. The human sat near the fire, his clothes torn, his skin marked with dust and blood. The elder had ordered him tied with ropes, though not too tightly, as if even they feared breaking something precious. He stared into the flames, his mind racing. He had survived the crash, survived the circle of hungry eyes, survived the duel. But how long could he survive their desire? From the shadows, one of them approached. She moved differently from the others, softer steps, quieter breath. Her face was half hidden under strands of silver hair. She crouched beside him, her eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. "You must not stay here," she whispered in broken words, surprising him with her attempt at his language. His head snapped toward her. You speak?" "Not well," she admitted. Her accent was sharp, her words slow, but clear enough. "I learned from forbidden texts." The ropes dug into his wrists as he leaned closer. "Why help me?" Her eyes lowered, then lifted again, burning with something dangerous. "Because they will destroy you. Because they will destroy each other for you." Her voice trembled, but her gaze did not. She reached out, brushing her fingers against the rope. He flinched, but her touch was not rough. It was careful, almost tender. "They have not seen a man in 100 years, she said. "They only remember stories. To them, you are not a person. You are power. You are hope. And that makes you more dangerous than any weapon." The human's throat tightened. He whispered, "Then why are you here?" Her lips parted, and for a moment she did not answer. Then she leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. "Because I want something the others will never admit." Her hand touched his chest, over his heart. "I do not want your power. I do not want your bloodline. I want the thing they have forgotten." He blinked, unsure if he understood. "What do you mean?" Her voice lowered until it was almost a plea. "I want to remember what it feels like, to be held." The words struck him deeper than any spear. Her eyes shone, not with hunger, but with loneliness. For a moment, the camp, the fire, The whispers around them disappeared. There was only her trembling hand, and the dangerous secret in her voice. But then a sharp cry split the night. Warrior had seen them. She stormed toward the fire, her spear in hand, fury blazing across her face. "You dare touch him?" The silver-haired woman stepped back quickly, her body shaking. The human struggled against the ropes, but the warrior shoved him down with the tip of her spear. "He belongs to strength," the warrior growled. "Not to weakness." The tribe gathered again, circling the fire. Eyes flicked from the warrior to the silver-haired woman. Some smirked, some glared. The elder lifted her staff. "Enough!" she commanded. Her voice cracked like thunder. The circle grew still. The elder's eyes, dark and heavy, scanned the crowd. "Do you fools not see? He has already begun to divide us. This is why men were forbidden. This is why we swore never to allow their kind to return. Do you not remember the stories?" Whispers spread. Some nodded, others clenched their fists. The silver-haired woman lowered her head, but her gaze never left the human. The elder stepped forward, pointing her staff at him. "He is temptation. He is ruin. If we fight over him, the tribe will burn." But the warrior lifted her spear. "Then let it burn. I will claim him, and no one will stop me." The circle erupted again. Shouts filled the night, sparks flying, as weapons clashed against the ground. The women were seconds away from tearing each other apart, and in the middle of it, the human realized something terrifying. They were not fighting over his survival. They were fighting over his body, his life, his choice, his freedom. None of it mattered to them. To these women, he was not human. He was a prize, except for her. His eyes found the silver-haired woman again. She was silent, but her trembling hands told him the truth. She did not want him as a weapon, or a breeding tool, or a throne. She wanted something far more dangerous. That she wanted him as a man. The fire cracked. The shouts grew louder. The ropes cut deeper into his wrists, and in his heart he felt the truth. This forbidden desire, hers, his, maybe even his own, would not just divide the tribe. It would destroy it. The camp never slept that night. Whispers moved like smoke through the tents. The warrior sharpened her spear, her eyes never leaving the human. The hunter cleaned her blades, waiting for her chance. The elder prayed to the old gods, her staff shaking in her hands. And the human sat tied near the fire, his heart pounding like a drum. But in the darkness, someone moved silently. The silver-haired woman. Her steps were soft, her breath held tight. She crouched behind him, her fingers trembling as they touched the ropes. "Quiet," she whispered. "Do not speak." The ropes loosened. His wrists burned, but freedom rushed into his arms. He looked at her, confused, but she pressed a finger to her lips. Slowly, she pulled him to his feet and guided him into the shadows. The two slipped away, moving between the sleeping guards, past glowing fires, and into the wild night. The valley stretched wide and dangerous, filled with the cries of hidden beasts. The red sky above gave no light, only endless smoke. Still, she led him forward, fast and sure. At last, when the campfires were far behind, they stopped inside a hollow cave. The human collapsed against the stone, gasping. His leg throbbed, his body weak. She knelt beside him, her hands gentle on his wound. "Why are you helping me?" he asked, his voice rough. Her silver eyes lifted to his. For a moment she said, "Nothing." Then softly, "Because I remember," he frowned. "Remember what?" She touched her chest, just above her heart. "Stories of men. My grandmother told me before the elders forbade the words. She said men were not only warriors, not only destroyers. She said men could be protectors, comfort, companions." Her voice shook on the last word, as if it were too fragile to say. Human's throat tightened. He had been treated as a prize, as an object, but in her eyes, he saw something different. A dangerous hope. Still, suspicion burned in him. And the others? They want to own me. What about you? Her gaze did not falter. I want you to live. Silence hung heavy in the cave. The sound of water dripping from stone echoed. Somewhere outside, a beast howled. Finally, she began to bind his wound with strips of her own cloak. Her hands trembled each time her fingers brushed his skin, but she did not pull away. You should not trust me, she whispered. If they find us, they will kill me first. He stared at her, the fire of the crash still burning in his mind. Then why risk it? Her eyes closed, her voice no louder than a breath. Because when I saw you, I felt alive for the first time. The words struck him harder than the crash, harder than the ropes. He turned his face away, not sure if he could carry her confession. But before he could answer, a sound snapped through the night footsteps, heavy and fast. The silver-haired woman froze. Her eyes widened. They followed us. The humans. Heart pounded. He tried to stand, but his leg gave way. She caught him, her small frame shaking under his weight, but she refused to let him fall. Go deeper, she urged, pulling him into the shadows of the cave. Torches flared at the entrance. The warrior stepped inside, her spear gleaming, her eyes wild. Behind her, 2 hunters with blades, their faces painted with blood. The silver-haired woman's hand tightened on his arm. Stay behind me, she whispered. The warrior's laugh echoed in the cave. So this is where you hide, traitor. Did you think you could steal him? Did you think you could claim him for yourself? The silver-haired woman stood tall, though her hands shook. He is not yours to claim, the hunters snarled. The warrior raised her spear. Then fight me, weakling, or die with him. The human pressed his hand to the wall, his breath ragged. He wanted to shout, to stop them, to tell them he was no prize. But the words caught in his throat. He was helpless again, helpless while women prepared to kill for him. The silver-haired woman pulled a small dagger from her cloak. It was not large, not sharp like the others, but her grip was firm. Her silver eyes glowed with fire. For 100 years, you have lived without men, she said. Maybe you forgot what it means to fight for something more than power. The warrior's smile was cruel. And what do you fight for? The silver-haired woman's voice broke, but her words did not. For him. The cave went silent. The human's chest tightened. He had heard desire, hunger, and anger in the women's voices before, but hers was different. Hers was a vow. The warrior roared, charging forward, her spear aimed at both of them. The silver-haired woman stepped in front of the human, dagger raised, and the cave erupted into battle. The cave shook with the clash of weapons. Sparks lit the dark walls as the silver-haired woman fought desperately to keep the warrior's spear away from the human. Her dagger was small, her body weaker, but her will was fire. Each strike pushed her back, each step nearly broke her, but she did not fall. The human tried to rise, tried to help, but his wounded leg betrayed him. He could only watch as she fought for him, her breath sharp, her arms trembling. Then the hunters joined in. Blades slashed, cutting through stone and air. She dodged one strike, blocked another, but blood streaked across her arm. The warrior roared, swinging her spear down to finish it. And suddenly, horns blared outside the cave. The sound rolled like thunder across the valley. The ground shook under the stamp of hundreds of feet. The warrior stopped mid-strike, her face twisting. She turned toward the cave mouth. Another tribe had arrived. The silver-haired woman's eyes widened. She knew that sound. The rival tribe, sworn enemies of the warrior's people, had come. And they had come for the same reason for the man. Outside, the red sky burned with firelight. Hundreds of alien women marched, carrying torches, banners, and weapons. Their leader rode at the front, her armor made of gold and steel, her hair braided in black coils. She raised her hand, pointing toward the cave. "The man is here," she shouted. Her army roared in answer. The warriors snarled, dragging her spear back. "You brought them?" The silver-haired woman shook her head, her voice breaking. "No. They followed the fire. They smelled the war." The rival tribe stormed forward, arrows flying, blades flashing. The warriors' people rushed out to meet them. The valley exploded into chaos. Screams, roars, and the clash of steel echoed into the night. The human crawled to the mouth of the cave, his heart hammering as he saw the battle unfold. Hundreds of alien women tore into each other, bone against steel, blood against fire. Sparks flew as spears shattered, arrows pierced armor, and warriors screamed their last breath. All of it. For him, the silver-haired woman knelt beside him, pulling him back into the shadows. Her face was pale, her arm bleeding, but her eyes stayed strong. "You must not let them take you. If one tribe wins, the world burns." He stared at her, his voice rough. "Why? Why me?" Her lips trembled. "Because you are the last piece they do not have. With you, they can claim power over life itself. You are not just a man to them, you are a throne." The words sank into him like stone. He was no longer just prey. He was the crown of a kingdom he did not want. Outside, the war raged hotter. Fire spread across tents. Bodies fell on the cracked earth. The warrior fought like a storm, tearing through the rival tribe with her spear, but the golden armored leader met her strike for strike. Two titans clashed in the center of the valley, while the armies slaughtered each other around them. Human pressed his back to the cave wall, his mind spinning. He had survived the crash. He had survived the circle. But now he faced something worse. Two worlds tearing themselves apart over him. The silver-haired woman grabbed his face with trembling hands. "Listen to me," she begged. "You must choose. If you do nothing, they will kill each other until none remain. If you let one tribe win, you will be their slave. But if you stand, maybe, just maybe, you can stop this." His breath shook. "Stop this? I'm only one man." Her eyes burned, desperate and bright. "That is why you are dangerous. Because even one man can change everything." A cry shattered the air outside. The warrior and the golden armored leader had both fallen to their knees, locked in brutal combat. The tribes roared louder, their bloodlust wild. The human looked out over the fire and death. Hundreds of eyes searched for him, even as they fought. Every scream, every clash, every drop of blood because of him. His fists clenched. His voice whispered, almost to himself, "No more." Slowly, painfully, he rose to his feet. His leg burned, his body weak, but he stood. The silver-haired woman gasped, trying to steady him. "What are you doing?" she asked. He looked out into the burning valley, firelight dancing in his eyes. "I won't let them kill each other for me." He limped toward the cave entrance, every step a war against his pain. Outside, the women screamed and fought, blind to his presence. Then, with every breath in his lungs, he shouted, "Stop!" The sound tore through the battlefield like a wave. Hundreds of heads snapped toward the cave. The war froze. Spears paused. Midair, arrows hung on strings. The tribe stared at him, the man standing, weak but unbroken, in the mouth of the cave. The silence was heavy. The fire cracked. Blood dripped onto the dust. And he spoke again, his voice rough but filled with iron. "I am not your weapon. I am not your throne. If you want me, then hear me. I belong to no one." The valley held its breath. Then, slowly, the golden armored leader lowered her sword. The warrior's hand trembled on her spear. The tribes looked between each other, torn between rage and fear. The silence lasted only a heartbeat, and then someone screamed. The war began again. Asterisk. The valley was fire. Flames licked the sky, spears clashed in sparks, and the cries of warriors shook the cracked ground. Blood painted the dust, and still the alien women fought. their eyes burning with the same hunger, to claim the man who now stood in the mouth of the cave. The human's chest heaved as he looked down at the battlefield. He had shouted until his throat burned, but they had not stopped. His words had frozen them for a heartbeat, then rage had drowned reason. The war only grew worse. The silver-haired woman clutched his arm, her voice breaking. "You must hide. They will kill you if they cannot own you." He shook his head, his eyes fixed on the chaos. "No, if I hide, more will die. If I run, they will hunt me. This ends here." Her lips parted in shock. "Ends? You cannot fight them." He turned, his face toward her, and though his body was weak, his eyes were hard as steel. "Maybe I can't fight them with weapons, but I can fight them with something they've forgotten." Before she could stop him, he stepped forward. His boots struck the burning soil, his shadow stretching across the battlefield. The warrior saw him first. Her face twisted, blood streaking her skin, her spear trembling in her hand. "There!" she roared. "He is mine!" The golden-armored leader turned, her sword dripping red. She raised her blade high, shouting, "No, he belongs to us." Both tribes surged toward him like waves, crashing forward with weapons raised. Human stood tall, his arms spread wide, his voice breaking through the chaos. "Enough!" The word tore through the valley, stronger than before. For a heartbeat, the battle slowed. Eyes turned toward him, hundreds of eyes, glowing in firelight, filled with bloodlust and desire. He pointed at the flames, the broken bodies, the rivers of blood soaking the ground. His voice rang out, raw but unshaken. "Look at what you've become. You fight, you kill, you burn for me. I am not your savior. I am not your slave. I am not your throne." The women froze. Spears lowered, swords faltered. His words cut sharper than steel. "You lost men long ago," he continued, his voice shaking with fury. "Maybe you thought you were stronger without them. But look at you now. You are not strong, you are desperate. You don't want me, you want control." The silence grew heavy. Even the warrior faltered, her spear trembling in her grip. The silver-haired woman stepped forward, her eyes bright with tears. She whispered, "They do not understand." But the human raised his voice louder, his words crashing like thunder. "Then I will make them understand." He strode into the center of the battlefield, his limp dragging behind him, but his presence commanding. The flames crackled around him, casting his shadow across both tribes. "If you fight over me, you will destroy yourselves. If you make me your prize, you will never have me. But if you want me to stay alive..." His voice broke, but he forced it strong again. "Then you must fight with me, not for me," the words echoed. The women shifted uneasily. Desire burned in their eyes, but so did doubt. The warrior's jaw clenched. She stepped closer, her spear lowering, her voice cracked, rough with confusion. You speak like a leader." The golden-armored leader narrowed her eyes. "Or a liar," the tribes murmured. Some dropped their weapons. Others tightened their grips. The human's chest rose and fell, his body trembling. He had thrown his soul into those words, but he knew it might not be enough. And then the breaking point came. One of the hunters, her face twisted with madness, screamed and lunged at him. Her blade flashed, aiming for his chest. The silver-haired woman cried out, "No!" Instinct took over. The human caught the hunter's wrist, twisting with desperate strength. The blade clattered to the ground. He shoved her back, his voice roaring with a fury that shook even himself. "I will not be your prey." The hunter fell to her knees, stunned. The battlefield froze again. This time, it was not silence of fear, it was silence of awe. The women had expected weakness. They had expected begging. Instead, they saw a man standing tall, defying them all. The warrior slowly lowered her spear. The golden-armored leader dropped her blade into the dust. The tribes stared, their breaths heavy. their bodies torn by war. But in that silence, something shifted. Not victory, not peace, but the first crack in the walls of their hunger. The human stood in the center. His fists clenched, his voice low but powerful. I am not your war. I am not your prize. If I am to live among you, it will be by choice, not chains. The silver-haired woman's eyes filled with tears. The elder, watching from the shadows, whispered words no one else heard. The breaking point has come. The fire burned lower. The battle paused. But the tension did not vanish, because now the question hung heavy in every heart. Would they follow him or destroy him? Asterisk. The battlefield was quiet at last. Weapons lay scattered in the dust, broken banners sagged in the flames, and the cries of war faded into whispers. Dozens of alien women stood in silence, their armor cracked, their bodies scarred. Their eyes, all of them, were locked on the human who stood tall in the center. Blood on his hands, fire in his voice. He had stopped them, not with strength, not with weapons, but with words they could not ignore, even if they hated them. The silver-haired woman stood beside him, her arm wrapped with cloth, her silver eyes never leaving his face. She knew this was the moment. The tribes had reached their limit. They would either kill him now, or let him decide what came. Next, the elder hobbled forward, her staff dragging a line through the dust. Her face was ancient stone, but her voice carried through the valley. You have broken the law of 100 years. You have divided us, yet you have also stopped the slaughter. Tell us, man, what do you choose? The human's chest rose and fell. His leg throbbed, his body screamed for rest, but his spirit burned brighter than the flames around him. He looked at the warrior, her spear lowered, her pride cracked but not broken. He looked at the golden armored leader, her sword fallen but her eyes still sharp with ambition. He looked at the crowd of women, their faces torn between desire, fear, and something deeper. And then, finally, he looked at the silver-haired woman. Her gaze was not hunger, not power, not conquest. It was fragile, trembling, and yet the most dangerous of all. It was trust. The human turned back to the tribes. His voice was steady, though heavy with the weight of his choice. You have fought for me. You have killed for me. But I am not a prize. I will not be chained, not by one tribe or the other. If I must stay here, it will not be as property. It will be as a partner. The words hung in the air like lightning. The women murmured, confused, restless. He lifted his hand, pointing first at the warrior, then at the golden armored leader. You fight for thrones, but I fight for life. If you want a future, you must lay down your weapons, not for me, but for yourselves. The warrior's eyes narrowed. And if we do not? The man's voice hardened. Then you will destroy everything, your tribes, your children, your world. A heavy silence followed. The elder closed her eyes, as if hearing an echo from a century past. The women shifted uneasily. The war had drained them. The fire of battle was fading. And in its place, the man's words lingered like a new law waiting to be written. The golden armored leader spat into the dust, frustration twisting her face. But she did not raise her sword again. The warrior let out a slow breath, lowering her spear until it struck the ground, motionless. One by one, weapons fell into the dirt. The battle was over, not by victory, but by choice. The human turned to the silver-haired woman. For a moment, the world narrowed until only she remained. He reached out, his hand trembling, and brushed her fingers. If I choose you, he whispered, his voice low so only she could hear. Will you fight for me or with me? Her lips trembled. With you, always. For the first time since the crash, his chest loosened. A small, tired smile touched his lips. The elder raised her staff, her voice breaking the silence once more. Then hear this. The old law is broken. A new path begins. He is not a weapon, not a throne, but a man. His choice will shape us. His life will bind us, so let us see where it leads. The tribes bowed their heads, some in respect, others in fear, others still in confusion. But none dared lift a weapon again. The human stood among them, battered but unbroken. Around him, the alien world burned with the weight of 100 years of anger. But in his heart, he felt something new. Not fear, not hunger, not war. Possibility. The silver-haired woman slipped her hand into his, her fingers soft but firm. The future was unclear, dangerous, and filled with shadows. But it was theirs to make. The flames dimmed, the night grew still, and the valley waited for dawn. And in that fragile silence, one truth shone brighter than fire. The future of X'ylos would no longer be written by the law of the past. It would be written by the choice of a man.